Here's your drink, sweetheart. The words left Sofia Moretti's lips before she could stop them. A frozen silence fell over the private VIP section of the Sapphire Lounge. The tray of crystal glasses trembled in her hands. Her heart pounded so hard she was certain everyone in the room could hear it. The man seated in the leather chair raised his eyes slowly. Dark as a polar night, they cut straight through her, a gaze that made her feel completely exposed. Tattoos snaked up his neck and disappeared beneath the collar of his perfectly fitted black suit. His jaw, carved like marble, tensed almost imperceptibly. "What did you just say?" His voice was low, dangerously calm. Sofia felt the blood drain from her face. The winter night pressing against the windows of Warsaw suddenly seemed warmer than the air in that room. The flickering club lights cast golden reflections across his face, sharpening every hard line, deepening every shadow. "I'm so sorry, sir," she stammered, desperately reaching for the name on the reservation list. Dante Russo. How could she have been so stupid? 3 weeks working at the Sapphire Lounge, and she had learned one fundamental rule: don't draw attention to yourself. Keep your head down. Stay invisible. And yet here she was, in the most exclusive VIP section in the building, standing in front of a man whose name even the newest staff whispered with a mixture of fear and reverence. And she had called him sweetheart. Like he was just anybody. "Say it again," he said. Velvet on the surface. Something darker underneath. But slower. Every man at the table went completely still. 5, maybe 6 of them. All in suits. All carrying that hard look of people who had seen too much. One of them held a cigar that had burned down to ash, forgotten between his fingers. Sofia felt sweat gather at the back of her neck despite the air conditioning. Her fake documents, Maria Kowalska, 24, clean record, were sitting in her locker 2 floors below. Everything she had built over the past 4 months since her escape could collapse in this one moment. "I'm sorry, Mr. Russo." She set the tray on the table, every movement carefully controlled. Her hands had stopped trembling. That was a skill she had learned in her previous life, in the previous city, with the previous man who left bruises where no one could see them. It was a mistake. It won't happen again. She slipped back into Italian, the language of her childhood in Naples, before everything fell apart. Before Marcus. Dante Russo leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. The light caught his hands, strong, heavy with 2 thick rings, covered in tattoos that disappeared beneath his shirt cuffs. They were the hands of a man who did not hesitate to use them. "You're new," he said. It wasn't a question. 3 weeks, signore. "Where are you from?" "Italy." The truth was safer than a lie with men like him. Truth, carefully measured. His gaze traveled across her face and lingered a moment longer than comfortable. Sofia knew what he saw. A 27-year-old woman with black hair pulled into a flawless knot, green eyes open just slightly too wide. The neckline of her uniform sitting precisely at the edge of professional. She was attractive. She knew that. It was one of the reasons Marcus had never let her go out alone. "What's your name?" "Maria." The lie slipped off her tongue smoothly, well rehearsed. But something flickered behind his eyes, as though he already knew, as though he could see straight through her. "Maria," he repeated, savoring each syllable. "Do you know who I am, Maria?" "Mr. Dante Russo, owner of the Velvet Restaurant, a respected businessman." The corner of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile, more like an acknowledgement of her caution. "Respected businessman," he repeated, and the men at the table laughed softly. "That's diplomatic." One of the men, tall, with a scar cutting through his eyebrow, leaned over and murmured something in Polish. Dante didn't take his eyes off Sofia. "Luca says you have beautiful eyes," Dante translated, still watching her. "But I noticed something different." Sofia swallowed. "Signore, you're afraid of something more than me." He held her gaze. "And that is interesting." The air left her lungs. How could he possibly? It was impossible. She had been perfect. No one at the club knew anything. Not even Han, her only almost friend at work, knew the truth. "I need to get back to work." Sofia took a step back. "Is there anything else the gentlemen need?" "Don't go yet, Maria." His voice wrapped around her like silk tightening at the throat. "I want you to stay here tonight. You'll only serve this table." It was not a request. "Of course, signore." The next 2 hours were a quiet kind of torture. Sofia brought drinks, emptied ashtrays, replaced small dishes of appetizers. all under Dante Russo's steady gaze. He spoke Italian with one of his men, Polish with the others, and sometimes switched to English. His voice was deep, melodic, impossible to tune out. Several times she caught him watching her. Each time, a knot tightened in her stomach, not from fear of him, but from fear of what could happen if someone started asking questions. If Marcus somehow found out where she was. The club slowly emptied. By 3:30 in the morning, the last guests had drifted out of the VIP section. Dante Russo stayed until the very end, reviewing something on his phone while Sofia gathered the empty glasses. Come here. The order was quiet. Absolute. Sofia approached, keeping a safe distance. Beyond the windows, Warsaw glittered with thousands of lights, and snow had begun to fall, small flakes spinning through the lamplight. How much do they pay you here? The question caught her off guard. It's the standard rate, signore. How much? More firmly this time. 20 zloty an hour, plus tips. He nodded slowly, as though that confirmed something he already suspected. He reached into his thick leather wallet and drew out several bills, placing them flat on the table. 500 zloty notes. That's for tonight. Sofia stared at the money. It was more than she made in an entire week. Signore, I can't. Can't you? He stood, and she had to lift her chin to meet his eyes. He was tall, at least 6'3", and at this distance he smelled of expensive cologne and something beneath it, something darker, more elemental. You will take it. Why? The question escaped before she could think. His hand rose slowly, giving her time to step back if she chose to. He didn't rush. Gently, he lifted a loose strand of hair that had fallen from her knot and tucked it aside. His fingers grazed her cheek, and Sofia went completely still. Because you're frightened, Maria? And whoever frightened you made you forget how beautiful you are. Her heart hammered. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not in years. You don't know me, she whispered. Not yet. His thumb traced her lower lip, slowly, deliberately, and then he pulled his hand away. But I will. He turned and walked toward the exit. His men materialized from the shadows like ghosts. At the door he paused. He looked back over his shoulder. Tomorrow night. Restaurant Velvet. 8 o'clock. A beat of silence. Be there. Not a request. His smile was predatory and promising all at once. See you tomorrow. And he was gone. Sofia stood alone in the empty VIP room, trembling. The money on the table felt like an accusation burning into the surface. Behind the window, snow fell thicker now, covering Warsaw in white. She should have run. Should have packed her few belongings from the rented room in Prague, bought a bus ticket to the next city, started over with another fake name. But every time she closed her eyes, all she could see was Dante Russo's dark gaze, and the way he had said Bella, as though the word had been created for her alone. She was in trouble. She knew it. And the worst part was that some piece of her, the piece Marcus had nearly destroyed, the piece that had forgotten what it felt like to be desired without fear, that piece wanted to find out what would happen if she won a Velvet tomorrow. Sofia picked up the money, folded it, and tucked it deep into her pocket. Her hands were no longer trembling. The next evening at 7:52, Sofia stood in front of Restaurant Velvet as snow drifted onto her dark coat, and her heart beat like it was trying to escape her chest. The neon sign burned red against the dark sky. Through the glass doors, she could see the elegant interior. Dark wood furniture, crystal chandeliers, tables filled with guests who each looked as though they could buy the entire building outright. She did not fit here. Her best outfit was a simple black dress purchased from a second-hand shop and a worn jacket. She looked like an intruder. She could leave. She should leave. But then the door opened and Dante Russo was standing there. Tonight he wore a navy suit, the shirt open at the collar, more tattoos visible along his collarbones. His black hair, slightly longer on top, was swept carefully back. He looked like Sin dressed in Armani. I thought you'd run, he said, leaning against the doorframe. I almost did. His smile was slow and satisfied. But you didn't. I still could. You could. He extended his hand. But then you'd never know why I invited you here. Sofia looked at that strong, tattooed, dangerous hand. Every instinct screamed at her to leave. Marcus had always started like this. Charming, gentle, making her feel special. But Dante Russo was not Marcus. There was something dark in him. Yes, but there was also something deeply honest. He did not pretend to be someone he wasn't. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and firm, and he guided her inside. The restaurant was even more beautiful up close. Soft jazz drifted from invisible speakers. Candlelight flickered at every table, and the scent of something extraordinary drifted through the air. Mr. Russo. A waiter appeared instantly and bowed slightly. Your table is ready. Dante guided her through the main room, past the curious glances of other guests, toward a private booth in the back. Behind heavy velvet curtains was an intimate table for two with a view of snowy Warsaw stretching beyond the glass. Sit, Bella. Sofia sat, feeling entirely outside her element. Dante took the seat across from her, his long legs almost brushing hers beneath the table. You don't have to be afraid, he said quietly. Tonight you're safe. I can't promise tomorrow, but I can promise that no one will hurt you while I'm here. The waiter brought wine, expensive, judging by the label, and filled both glasses. I don't drink, Sofia said softly. Dante gestured once. The waiter removed her glass without a word. Marcus drank. The question hit her like a slap. How did you? Your eyes last night. I've seen that fear before, Bella. I've seen it on the faces of women running from men who believe they own them. He leaned forward. How long have you been running? Sofia felt tears burning behind her eyes. For months. For months since she left the hospital in Krakow with 2 broken ribs and something deeper broken inside her. For months since she took every zloty she had and bought a one-way ticket away from Naples, away from Marcus, away from everything. Why are you asking me this? Because I want to help you. You don't know me. Then let me. His voice was like velvet. Maria, or whatever your real name is. The silence between them was heavy. Through the curtains, she could hear laughter from the main dining room, the murmur of a saxophone winding through the jazz. Sofia, she finally whispered. My name is Sofia Moretti. Dante smiled. A real smile, one that lit his entire face and made him look years younger. Less dangerous. More human. He extended his hand across the table, palm up. An invitation. A pleasure to meet you. For the second time. She placed her hand in his. This time, he didn't let go. Dinner was like a dream. Dante ordered for both of them. Everything she couldn't pronounce, all of it cooked to perfection. He asked about her life in Italy, her family, what she loved. He didn't ask about Marcus. Not yet. But when the waiter cleared the plates and they were left alone with the candles and the quiet, his expression grew serious. Tell me what he did to you. It was not a request. It was a warm command, and despite everything, almost gentle. And Sofia, for the first time in months, told the truth. She told him about Marcus Valentine, the handsome, charming, perfect boyfriend who became her nightmare. How his love turned to possession, his tenderness to control. How the first blow came after 6 months, and then a second. And then she stopped counting. She told him about the last night. Marcus in a drunken rage, breaking 2 of her ribs and leaving her on the apartment floor, bleeding and barely conscious. She told him about the escape, the fake documents, the fear that woke her every night, certain he would find her. When she finished, tears were running down her cheeks. Dante drew a white handkerchief from his pocket and handed it to her, his jaw clenched tight. Where is he now? His voice had dropped. It was soft, and it was dangerous. I don't know. Krakow, maybe. He looked for me those first few weeks, sent messages, but I changed everything. Phone number, social media, email, all of it. She looked up and saw the intensity in his eyes. Dante, please. Don't. I just want this to be over. I want to start again. And you will. He stood, came around the table, and knelt in front of her, taking her face in both hands. But first we make sure you're safe, Bella. We make sure he never finds you again. How? His smile was cold. A promise. Leave that to me. Sofia woke in her small rented room in Prague to her phone, shattering the morning silence. Winter sunlight barely pushed through the thin curtains, casting pale lines across the cracked walls. The new phone, the one she'd bought with cash 3 months ago, was vibrating on the nightstand. Unknown number. Her heart stopped. It had to be Marcus. Her hand trembled as she reached for it. Every instinct told her not to answer. But what if it was work? What if Hen needed her to cover a shift at the Sapphire Lounge? Yes. Her voice was barely audible. Buongiorno, Bella. That deep, velvet voice stopped the breath in her throat. Dante, how? How did you get this number? I have my methods. She could hear the amusement. You slept badly. Sofia sat up, pulling the thin blanket around her shoulders. The room was freezing. The radiator had stopped working again. How do you know that? Because I slept badly too. Thinking about you. Her cheeks flushed warm. Nobody had ever spoken to her this way. Not Marcus with his obsessive possession. Not the boys before him with their clumsy compliments. Dante spoke as though what he said were simply the most obvious truth in the world. Why are you calling? Because I want to see you today. Come to Velvet at 1 o'clock. I have a proposition for you. Dante, I can't. Trust me, Sofia. The way he said her real name sent something tightening painfully in her chest. 1 o'clock. Don't be late. He hung up before she could argue. Sofia lay back, staring at the cracked ceiling. She was out of her mind. This was insane. Dante Russo was a dangerous man. She had seen it in his eyes, in the way his men moved around him with that particular mixture of fear and loyalty. He was exactly the type of man she should be running from. And yet when he was near her, when he looked at her with that intensity, she felt alive. For the first time in years, she felt something beyond fear. At 12:45, she was standing outside Velvet, nervously straightening her coat. The snow had stopped falling, but Warsaw was still wrapped in white, making everything look cleaner and brighter than it actually was. The door opened before she could reach for it. The tall man with the scar through his eyebrow, Luca, she remembered from that first night, stepped aside. Mrs. Moretti, the boss is waiting in his office. Please follow me. She followed him through the empty restaurant. At this hour it was closed, tables bare, lights low. Her footsteps echoed on the marble floor. Dante's office was on the upper floor, behind solid mahogany doors. Luca knocked twice, waited for a quiet "Avanti," and opened the door. Dante was seated behind an enormous dark wood desk, surrounded by computer monitors and stacks of documents. He stood the moment he saw her, crossing the room in a few long strides. He took her hands in his and kissed her cheek in the Italian way. Familiar, warm, unhurried. Thank you for coming. You didn't leave me many options. His smile was predatory. True. He gestured toward a leather sofa beneath the window. Sit. She sat. He settled beside her, close, but not crowding her. He knew how to move around a frightened woman. That should have worried her more than it did. I looked into some things last night, he began. His tone shifted, serious now. About Marcus Valentine. Sofia went still. What? Italian contacts. It took a few hours, but I found him. He took out his phone, scrolled, and turned the screen toward her. A photograph of Marcus. That handsome face. The perfect hair. The smile that had once made her heart race. Now it made her stomach turn. He's in Krakow, Dante continued. Renting an apartment in Podgorze. Works at a consulting firm. Clean life on the surface. His jaw tightened. But I found something else. 3 other women in the past 5 years. All with stories like yours. 1 hospitalized with a concussion. 2 with fractures. None of them pressed charges. Sofia felt the room tilt. 3 more. She wasn't the first. She wouldn't be the last. Why are you telling me this? Dante pocketed his phone, his dark eyes steady on her face. Because you deserve to know the truth. And because I want to offer you something. What? A job here at Velvet. Hostess, server, whatever you want. 3 times what the Sapphire Lounge pays. He paused. An apartment. I have several properties in the city. 1 is empty, comfortable, safe. He leaned slightly closer. And my protection. Marcus will never find you, Sofia. I promise you that. It was too good to be true. Her guard rose instinctively. What do you want in return? Your honesty. Your trust. 1 month. He held her gaze. Give me 1 month to prove I'm worth trusting. After that, you decide. If you want to stay, you stay. If you want to go, I'll help you start over wherever you choose. No obligations, no expectations. Sofia studied him, searching for the trap, the hidden hook. All she found was raw, unfiltered sincerity staring back at her. Why would you do this for a complete stranger? Dante was quiet for a long moment, his fingers pressing and releasing against his knee. When he spoke, his voice was quieter. Rawer. When I was 12 years old, I came home and found my mother on the kitchen floor. My father was a man like Marcus, strong, impulsive, dangerous. His jaw locked. I got her to the hospital. The doctors fixed her jaw, her ribs. They couldn't fix the fear in her eyes. Sofia felt tears burning. I swore that I would never become him. And I swore that if I ever had the power to help someone in my mother's position, I would use it. He looked at her directly. So yes, Sofia. I'll help you. Not in exchange for anything. Because it's the right thing to do. The silence between them was full of unspoken things. What happened to your mother? Sofia whispered. She's alive. Florence. Safe, happy, retired. I send her money every month. His smile went cold. My father, well, he's no longer a problem. Sofia didn't ask what that meant. She wasn't sure she wanted to know. I'll accept your offer, she said quietly. But with one condition. Name it. Don't touch Marcus. Not yet. I want to hide. I want to feel safe. That's enough. Dante studied her for a long moment and then nodded slowly. As you wish, Bella. But if he finds you, if he even tries to come near you. He didn't need to finish the sentence. The promise was unmistakable. Understood. He stood and offered his hand to help her up. Then come. Let me show you your new apartment. The apartment was in Mokoto, in an elegant building with a security guard and a lift. 5th floor. 2 bedrooms. A wide window overlooking a park. Sofia stood in the middle of the living room, unable to speak. The furniture was modern and comfortable. The kitchen had every appliance. The bathroom was marble and gold. The bedroom had a king-sized bed dressed in soft white linen. It was 100 times better than her hole in Prague. Dante, this is too much. This is exactly right. He placed the keys on the counter. 3 months' rent paid in advance. Utilities included. The building has a code, and the guard knows you're moving in. No one gets in without your consent. Sofia turned to face him, tears running freely. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. He crossed to her and dried her tears with his thumb. Just stay safe, Bella. That's all I ask. They stood centimeters apart, his hand on her cheek, her breath caught in her throat. The warmth of him was overwhelming. The scent of his cologne was intoxicating. Dante. His name was barely a whisper on her lips. Yes. Why do you look at me like that? His thumb slid slowly, deliberately across her lower lip. Like what? Like I'm something valuable. His smile was gentle, almost sad. Because you are, Sofia. You're worth more than you know. He leaned down slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and pressed his lips to her forehead. A kiss that was quiet and pure, and it shook her more than any passionate gesture ever had. Then he stepped back before she could respond, before she could think. You start tomorrow. 7 in the evening. Dress elegant, but comfortable. I'll show you how everything works. He walked to the door and paused. And Sofia, if you need anything, call me. Day or night. I'll be here. He was gone. Sofia stood alone in the beautiful apartment, his scent still drifting through the air and something warm and terrifying blooming quietly in her chest. The first 2 weeks at Velvet passed like a dream. Sofia worked 5 nights a week, welcoming guests, guiding them to their tables, sometimes helping the servers carry heavy trays. The work was easy, the guests generous, the atmosphere elegant and pleasant. Dante was present every evening, sometimes upstairs in his office, sometimes at a corner table with various associates. Some looked legitimate. Others carried that same hard light in their eyes as his men. He spoke with her every night, at least a few minutes. He asked about her day, whether everything was all right in the apartment, whether she felt safe. He never pressed for more, never crossed a line. But the way he looked at her, God, the way he looked at her, made her feel seen and wanted and terrified all at once. The 3rd weekend, her phone buzzed with a message. Unknown number. Her heart stopped. She opened it with trembling fingers. I know where you are, Sofia. You thought you could hide from me. Come home now, or you'll regret it. The phone slipped from her hands and hit the floor. She couldn't breathe. Marcus. Marcus had found her. How? How was this possible? Her hands shook as she picked up the cracked phone. The screen had split, but it still worked. She dialed the only number that mattered now. Sofia. Dante's voice was immediately alert. What happened? He found me. Marcus sent a message. Her voice broke on the last word. Where are you? Home. The apartment. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. I'll be there in 10 minutes. It took him 7. Dante came through the door with Luca and 2 other men. His face was stone. He crossed directly to where Sofia was curled on the sofa and pulled her into his arms. Show me the message. She handed him the phone with trembling hands. He read it. His jaw tightened with every word. Luca, track that number. Now. Luca took the phone and disappeared into the bedroom with one of the men. Dante held Sofia, his hands moving in slow, steady circles across her back. Breathe, Bella. You're safe. I'm here. How did he find me? I was so careful. Social media, friends, family. She shook her head. I don't have family. I didn't contact anyone from Italy. Then he hired someone. A private investigator, most likely. His voice was cold and steady. It doesn't matter now. It's over. What do you mean? He looked at her, and something in his eyes was dark and final. I mean, Marcus Valentine just made a mistake. He threatened something under my protection. Now he'll pay for it. Dante, no. She took his face in both hands and held his gaze. Listen to me. This man will not stop. He found you once. He'll find you again. He will chase you to the end of your days or his. Is that the life you want? Living in constant fear. Tears ran down her face. No. Then let me end this. Once and for all. Luca returned, his face grim. Number is from a prepaid card purchased in Krakow 3 days ago. We tracked the last location to a hotel near Europa Square. 10 minutes from here. Something cold moved through Sofia. He's in Warsaw. Dante rose to his feet, his entire body charged with dark purpose. Luca, assemble the team. I want him alive. I want him to understand what he's done. Wait. Sofia stood and caught his arm. Let me come with you. Absolutely not. Dante, please. I need to see it. I need to know it's over. He looked at her for a long moment, something fighting behind his eyes. Finally he exhaled. Fine. But you stay in the car. You do exactly as I tell you. Agreed. Agreed. The hotel was the kind of place where few questions were asked. Sofia sat in the back of Dante's black SUV, watching as Dante and 3 of his men walked through the entrance. 15 minutes passed. Each second was its own small agony. Then the front door opened. Luca and another man came out dragging a figure between them. Marcus. Even from a distance, Sofia recognized him. His build, the way he moved, everything the same, just slightly thinner. More desperate. They loaded him into a separate car. Dante returned and settled beside Sofia. His face was unreadable. We take him outside the city. A place I have, quiet, private. He looked at her. Are you sure you want to see this? Sofia thought of every night she had spent crying. The bruises hidden beneath layers of concealer. The fear that had eaten her alive for years. I'm sure. They drove 45 minutes until the city lights faded behind them. They stopped in front of an old warehouse surrounded by open fields of snow. Inside it was cold and empty. Marcus was tied to a chair in the center of a bare room, his eyes wide when he saw Sofia. Sofia, thank God. Tell them this is a mistake. Tell them. Be quiet. Dante's voice cracked like a whip. He stepped forward, his presence filling the room. Do you know this woman? She's my girlfriend. These people are insane. They kidnapped me. The blow came so fast Sofia barely saw it. Dante's open hand connected with Marcus's face, snapping his head sideways. Try again. Do you know this woman? Marcus spat blood. Yes. We lived together in Italy. She left. Why did she leave? I don't know. She was paranoid. She was. Another blow. Dante's fist this time. His voice stayed completely level. Stop lying. I know about the others. Julia. Franca. Elysia. I know what you did to them. The color drained from Marcus's face. Sofia stepped forward. Her legs were steady. Her heart hammered, but her legs were steady. Dante glanced at her. She nodded. She stood in front of Marcus. This man who had once been her entire world, and then her nightmare. Do you remember the last night, Marcus? Her voice was quieter than she expected. When you broke my ribs and left me bleeding on the floor. Sofia, I swear, I was drunk. I didn't mean. Do you remember telling me it was my fault? That I provoked you? That I deserved it? Tears moved down her face. I'm sorry. I swear to God I'm sorry. Let me fix it. I'll go to therapy. I'll do anything. You would do it again. It wasn't a question. You'd find another woman and do exactly what you did to me. What you did to the others. No, I swear. Sofia turned to Dante. Her voice didn't shake. Finish it. Something moved through Dante's eyes. Respect. Dark satisfaction. Are you certain? I'm certain. Dante nodded to Luca. Take him. Make it look like an accident. Mountain Road. Too much alcohol in his blood. Sofia. Please, Sofia, no. But Sofia had already walked out. The cold night air hit her face. Dante joined her a moment later, draping his coat around her shoulders. Are you all right? She breathed in slowly. She had expected to feel something, regret, grief, anything. Instead, all she felt was an enormous relief, as though someone had reached into her chest and lifted a weight she had carried so long she'd forgotten what it felt like not to have it. I feel free. Dante turned her to face him, his hands on her shoulders. You are free, Bella. From this moment. For always. She looked at him. This dangerous, complicated man who had shown her a kindness she hadn't known how to receive. What happens now? His smile was slow, promising. Now we go home, and you start your real life. He kissed her then, not gently like before, but with hunger and an intensity that took her breath away. His mouth was warm against hers. His hands found her hair, and she kissed him back with equal desperation, everything she had held back pouring into that one moment. When they finally broke apart, both of them breathing hard, his forehead came to rest against hers. Stay with me, Sofia. Not as an employee, not out of obligation. Because you want to. Her answer was immediate. Certain. Yes. The smile that broke across his face was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. And for the first time in years, Sofia Moretti felt like she was home. 3 weeks after that night, Sofia woke in silk sheets that cost more than her old monthly rent. Winter sunlight poured through the enormous windows of Dante's penthouse, golden rays stretching across the room. Dante lay beside her, one hand resting lazily at her hip, breathing deep and steady. Asleep, he looked younger, less dangerous. His dark lashes cast soft shadows across his cheeks. The hard lines of his face were relaxed. The tattoos that snaked across his chest and arms and ribs told stories she was only beginning to learn. Sofia eased out from under his hand without waking him and crossed to the window. Warsaw spread below them, the city stirring to life. It was late February. The snow had finally begun to melt, revealing the gray of rooftops and streets beneath. Admiring the view? Or running from the bed? His sleep-rough voice sent a shiver through her. She turned. Dante had sat up. The sheet had fallen to his waist. Admiring the view, she answered, with a small smile. Which one? The city, a flicker of something self-satisfied. Or this? A little arrogant, don't you think? His laugh was warm and real. He rose from the bed without a trace of self-consciousness and came to her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. His mouth found that sensitive place just beneath her ear. Stay today, he murmured against her skin. All day, just the two of us. I have a shift at Velvet at 6. I'll cancel it. Dante. The protest was weak, especially as his hands moved beneath the shirt she was wearing, his shirt. Say no and I'll stop. His fingers stilled, waiting. Sofia turned in his arms and looked into those dark eyes that saw straight through her. I never want you to stop. The smile he gave her was all warmth and hunger and promise. It was well past noon when they finally left the bedroom. Dante made breakfast himself, or a late lunch, really. Scrambled eggs with salmon, freshly squeezed orange juice, coffee so strong Sofia could feel her heart quicken just from the smell. They sat at the marble kitchen island, knees touching, eating in comfortable silence. This was something she had come to love about Dante. He didn't need to fill every moment with words. He could simply be. I have to go out tonight, he said eventually, his tone shifting. Business meeting. It may run late. Sofia nodded, pushing down a flicker of unease. She knew what Dante did. Not every detail, perhaps, but she wasn't naive. Velvet was a legitimate business. But there were other ventures, other meetings in the small hours, with men carrying hard eyes and concealed weapons. Will you be safe? He looked at her. Surprise moved through his expression. I always am. That's not an answer. His hand found hers on the counter, fingers lacing together. I'll be safe, Bella. I promise. Luca and the team will be with me. It's only a conversation, negotiations. With who? A slight hesitation, the first she'd seen from him since they met. She watched him consider how much to tell her. Russians. They want to expand their operations into our territories. I need to explain why that's a poor idea. Will it be dangerous? Everything I do is dangerous. He brought her hand to his lips and kissed each knuckle. But you make it worth the risk. Dante. Her voice was quiet. Serious. Listen to me. He held her gaze, fully present. For years I did what I had to do to survive. To build what I have. I never thought further ahead than tomorrow. His voice dropped. But now, with you, for the first time, I want more. Something real. Her breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you. The words were simple, honest, absolute. I love you, Sofia Moretti. Every part of you. Your strength and your softness. The way you look at me like I'm both sinner and saint. I love you, and if you'll let me, I will love you for the rest of my life. Tears were running down her face before she could stop them. No one had ever said those words to her. Not like this. Not with this rawness, this truth. I love you too, she whispered. I love you so much it frightens me. He kissed her then, deeply, slowly, pouring everything unspoken into it. When they parted, his forehead rested against hers, both of them breathing hard. When things are stable, when all of this settles, I want you to marry me. Sofia's heart stopped. Not now, he said quickly. Not while everything is still unsettled. But soon. His thumb dried her tears. I want you to be my wife, Bella. I want to sleep beside you every night and wake up with you every morning. I want children if you want them. A home. A family. Everything our parents never gave us. Sofia couldn't speak. She simply nodded, laughing through her tears. Is that a yes? Yes. Her voice cracked, but the word was clear. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. He lifted her, spinning her, and her laughter filled the kitchen. When he set her down, his eyes were bright, younger than she had ever seen them. I have something for you. He went to the bedroom. He returned a moment later with a small velvet box. Sofia stared at it. Dante, you said not yet. It's not an engagement ring. Not yet. He opened the box. Inside was a delicate gold chain holding a small pendant, a stylized heart with an emerald set in its center. This belonged to my mother. She gave it to me before she fled Italy. She told me to give it to the woman I loved. Sofia couldn't breathe. It's too much. I can't. You can. He lifted the chain, reached around her, and fastened it gently at the back of her neck. The pendant settled perfectly over her heart. Now everyone will know you're mine. She turned and touched the pendant. What if I don't want to belong to anyone? What if I want to belong to myself? His eyes lit with something wild. Then you'll belong to yourself. But you'll also belong to me. And I'll belong to you. We all belong to someone, Bella. The question is only who. You. No hesitation. Always you. Dante left at 7, dressed all in black, Luca and 4 men around him. He kissed Sofia until the room tilted, his hands in her hair, his mouth promising everything for later. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone. Security is downstairs, but if anything feels wrong, call me immediately. I'll be fine. Go. Handle your business. One more kiss. Then he was gone. Sofia spent the next hour moving through the penthouse, cleaning things that didn't need cleaning. Anything to keep her hands busy and her mind from running. She washed dishes, made the bed, scrubbed an already spotless bathroom. Still, a growing restlessness sat low in her stomach. At 9, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Old fear swept through her, and then she caught herself. Marcus was dead. She had seen the news 2 weeks ago. A car accident in the mountains outside Krakow. Blood alcohol, 3 times the limit. No one suspected anything else. She answered. Yes. Mrs. Moretti. The voice was low and tense. She recognized it. Alexander, one of Dante's men. There's a problem. The boss needs you at the old warehouse on Huzarska Street. Now. Her heart stopped. What happened? Is Dante all right? Just come quickly. He hung up. Sofia stood frozen. Every instinct told her something was wrong. Dante would never call her to a business meeting. He would never expose her to danger deliberately. But if he was hurt, if he needed her. She grabbed her coat, shoved her phone in her pocket, and ran for the door. The building was quiet. The guard in the lobby nodded as she pushed past. She flagged a taxi on the street and gave the address. The warehouse was in the old industrial quarter, surrounded by empty buildings and crumbling factories. The driver glanced at her strangely when she paid. You sure about this? Not a good area. I'm sure. She stepped out. Cold air hit her face. The warehouse stood before her, dark, silent, no signs of life. Something was very wrong. Every nerve in her body was screaming at her to turn around. But if Dante was inside, she pushed the door. It swung open with a groan, revealing darkness. Dante. Her voice echoed through the empty space. The light snapped on. 5 men, all armed, all watching her with something between appetite and menace. And in the center of the room, tied to a chair, bloodied, but alive, was Dante. Sofia, no. His shout was raw and broken. Run. It's a trap. Before she could move, strong hands seized her from behind. The cold barrel of a gun pressed against her temple. Welcome, Mrs. Moretti. The voice in her ear was thick with a Russian accent, cold as a blade. We had a feeling Mr. Russo needed some motivation to negotiate. Now he has it. Sofia looked at Dante. She saw pure panic in his eyes, pure, unguarded panic. For the first time since she'd known him, he looked terrified. Let her go. His voice was raw. Your business is with me, not with her. The man holding her was tall, bald, with a scar splitting his face from brow to jaw. He laughed. Oh, but our business is with you, Russo, and you've been difficult. Stubborn. So instead of talking, we're going to show you what happens when you refuse to cooperate. The gun moved from her temple to press against her heart. Sofia felt her own heartbeat pulsing against the cold metal. No, Dante's shout was animal, torn from somewhere deep. I swear to God, if you touch her, I will kill every man in this room. I will find everyone you love. There will be nowhere on this earth you are safe. The bald man smiled. Big words for someone tied to a chair. But perhaps we can make a deal. What do you want? Anything. Name it. Just let her go. Everything. Your territories, Warsaw, Krakow, Gdansk, all of it. You hand it over, and she lives. The silence that followed was crushing. Sofia watched the war play out on Dante's face. Everything he had built, everything he was, against her life. Dante. Her voice was steady despite the gun against her chest. Don't give them anything. Not for me. The bald man struck her across the side of her head with the pistol, sending her to her knees. Pain exploded through her skull. No. Dante fought against his bonds until blood ran from his wrists. Fine. Take it. Take everything. Just don't hurt her again. The bald man's smile spread wide with satisfaction. I knew you'd see reason. You'll sign documents transferring all your operations to my name. He gestured to one of his men, who approached with a pair of handcuffs. And to ensure your continued cooperation, Mrs. Moretti will be staying with us. As insurance. Absolutely not. Dante pulled savagely against the ropes. I said you'd have the territories. Take them and let us go. Oh, we'll take the territories. But your lovely fiancé will remind you to behave. The bald man pulled Sofia to her feet, his breath rancid against her cheek. Besides, it would be a waste not to take advantage of such a valuable resource. The way he said it made Sofia's stomach turn to ice. She knew exactly what he meant. I will kill you. Dante's voice went quiet, utterly still. I will make you beg for death before I'm finished. Grand threats. The bald man nodded to his men. Take him somewhere he can think about his situation. And take the woman to my place. We'll talk privately. Two men grabbed Sofia and dragged her toward the rear doors. She fought, kicked, screamed, clawed, but they were twice her size. Sofia, Dante's voice shattered. Hold on, Bella. I will find you. I swear. I will find you. I love you. Then a hand clamped over her mouth, and the words were swallowed whole. The last thing she saw before the door slammed was Dante's face, bloodied, desperate, completely undone. They brought her to a large, cold house with every curtain drawn. They threw her into an upstairs room and turned the key in the lock. Sofia fell to the floor, shaking. This was her worst nightmare. Captured, helpless, in the hands of men who saw her as property rather than a person. But she was not the same frightened woman who had fled Naples. Dante had shown her the strength she didn't know she had. She had survived Marcus. She would survive this. She slid her hand into her pocket. Her fingers found her phone. They hadn't taken it. 1 bar of signal. Battery nearly dead. She typed a message to the one man she could trust. Luca. Trapped. Don't know where. Dante in danger. Russians. Please. Help. She hit send. Seconds later the screen went black. Footsteps in the hallway. Moving toward her door. Sofia stood. Her hands were fists at her sides. If they were going to hurt her, it would not be easy. The door opened. The bald man stood in the threshold, his smile slow and cruel. Well, Mrs. Moretti, let's talk about your future. Sofia held her ground. Every muscle coiled. Her eyes swept the room. A lamp on the bedside table. Don't come any closer. Her voice surprised her with its steadiness. He laughed, low and threatening. Or what? You'll scream? No one will hear you, little one. This house is, how do you say it in Italian? Isolato. He took another step. Sofia closed her fingers around the base of the lamp. Let me be very clear, she said. Dante Russo is not a man you want to cross. If you hurt me, there will be no place on this earth where you are safe. Russo is finished. His empire belongs to us now. He's alone, wounded, locked up. He has no loyal men, no resources. He is nobody. His smile widened. And you are mine. He lunged. Sofia swung the lamp with everything she had. It connected with the side of his skull. Glass exploded. Blood sprayed. The bald man staggered sideways, roaring in pain and fury. You little. She ran for the door. But he was fast despite the wound. His hand shot out and caught her hair, yanking her brutally backward. She screamed, drove her heel back into his shin, felt his grip loosen for 1 second. Enough to pull free, enough to reach the door, enough to wrench it open. And came face to face with Luca. Behind him stood 12 men. Armed. Faces like carved stone. Go. 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 Luca shouted, and they exploded into action. Sofia was pushed to the side as Dante's men flooded the room. The bald man reached for his weapon. He wasn't fast enough. 2 shots. Precise. Controlled. And he fell, his hands pressed to his wounds, screaming. Where is the boss? Luca seized the bald man by the collar and lifted him. Where? Go to hell. 1 punch. 2. Blood flew. Last chance. Where? Russo. Old warehouse on Huzarska. But he'll be dead before you get there. He coughed blood. My men have orders. Luca dropped him. He turned to Sofia. Something in his granite face softened by a fraction. Are you hurt, Mrs. Moretti? Sofia shook her head, still in shock. How did you find me? Your message had location data. It took us 45 minutes to track you and assemble the team. His jaw tightened. The boss will not be happy it took that long. Is Dante? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Come. He guided her down the stairs through a house full of bound and gagged Russians. Outside, 3 black SUVs idled with engines running. You'll come with me, Lucas said, opening the back door for her. We'll take you somewhere safe. No. Sofia stopped. Mrs. Moretti, it will be dangerous. I don't care. Her voice was steel. He did everything for me. He gave up his empire to save my life. I am not leaving him there. Lucas studied her for a long moment and then nodded slowly. You're just like him. Stubborn as the devil. A ghost of a smile. All right, but you stay in the car until we say it's clear. Agreed. The drive to the warehouse was the longest 20 minutes of Sofia's life. Lucas sat beside her, speaking rapidly in Polish over the radio. She couldn't catch every word, but she heard the tension in his voice. When they arrived, the warehouse was silent. Too silent. Luca and his men moved in with weapons ready. Sofia watched through the darkened window, her heart beating so loudly she was sure it could be heard. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Then gunfire, a rapid series of shots that tore through the silence of the night. Sofia pressed both hands against the glass and cried out. Silence again, heavier than before. Then the warehouse door opened, and Luca came out supporting a figure. Dante. Sofia threw the car door open and ran without thinking. His face was bloodied. His shirt was torn and soaked dark. But he was alive. He was alive. Dante. His head lifted, and whatever emptiness and desperation had been in his eyes gave way to pure, absolute relief. Sofia. Her name on his lips was a prayer. She reached him and wrapped her arms around him without caring about the blood or the wounds. He held her so tightly she couldn't breathe, his face buried in her hair. I thought I'd lost you. His voice was raw and broken. I thought we wouldn't make it in time. I'm here. I'm all right. Luca found me. She pulled back just enough to look at him, her hands framing his face. You're hurt. Superficial. His thumbs brushed away tears she hadn't noticed were falling. We need to go. The Russians could have backup. They're handled. Luca's voice was grim behind them. Everyone here, everyone at the house where they held Mrs. Moretti, their entire Warsaw cell. All of them. Dante nodded slowly. Something dark moved through his eyes. Good. But I want their connections checked. Everyone who was involved. No surprises. Already on it, boss. They were taken to a private clinic across the city, a place that asked no questions. A doctor with calm, unhurried hands stitched Dante's wounds without commentary. For sutures above his eyebrow. 6 along his ribs where a blade had slipped between the bones, bruising across his torso that would turn spectacular shades of purple by morning. Sofia sat beside him the entire time, holding his hand as the doctor worked. Dante made no sound, jaw locked, eyes closed. When it was over, the doctor left 2 prescriptions on the table, gathered his instruments, and quietly left the room. They were alone, just their breathing filling the silence. "You should have stayed in the car," Dante said finally. His voice was exhausted. "I couldn't. You could have died. So could you." She tightened her grip on his hand. "You gave up everything, Dante. Your territories. Everything you built. For me. I'd do it again." His eyes opened and found hers. "No hesitation. Not even a fraction. None of it matters without you. But now you've lost it all." "No." His free hand rose and found the pendant still resting against her heart. "I have you. That's the only thing that matters." Tears ran down Sofia's cheeks. "What do we do now?" "Now," he smiled, tired and genuine. "We rebuild. Not the same way. Not as fast. But together, Bella. Always together. You promise?" "I promise." He kissed her then, gently, because of his split lip, but with all the feeling he had. And in that kiss, Sofia felt the future stretching open before them. Uncertain, dangerous, and entirely theirs. 3 months later, late May brought warmth to Warsaw. Flowers bloomed in the parks. People moved through the streets in lighter clothes, and the city pulsed with life. Sofia stood on the penthouse balcony, their penthouse, watching the sun paint the sky in gold and rose. The wind played through her hair, now longer and falling loose across her shoulders. Arms came around her from behind. Dante's familiar warmth. His chin rested on her shoulder, his breath warm against her skin. "What are you thinking about? How much has changed?" "For better." Definitely for better. And indeed the past 3 months had been a transformation. Dante kept his word about rebuilding, but differently. He expanded Velvet, opening 2 new locations, all legitimate, all thriving. He stepped back from his darker enterprises, channeling everything into restaurants, real estate, investments. It hadn't been easy. Some of his old contacts had not been pleased. There were threats, tense meetings, moments when Sofia was certain everything would collapse again. But Dante was persistent, and slowly, gradually, he built something new, something cleaner. "Luca called today," Dante said. "The last of the Russian contacts has been handled. No more problems from that side." Sofia turned in his arms to face him. His face had healed. The scars faded to faint white lines that only added character. He looked calmer now, less tense, as though the weight he had carried for years had finally been lifted. "That means we're free," he said quietly. "Truly free. No more threats. No more looking over our shoulders." His hands moved to her waist. "So now I can ask you something." "What?" He stepped back. His hand went to his pocket. He produced a small velvet box, similar to the one that held the pendant from his mother, but different. Sofia's heart stopped. Dante lowered himself to one knee on the balcony as the setting sun painted him in gold. "Sofia Moretti." His voice was raw, honest. "You know who I was. You know what I've done. You know the darkness in me." A pause. "But you also know that I love you with every breath in my body. You taught me what it means to be human, not just to survive. You showed me a future worth fighting for." He opened the box. A simple, elegant ring, an emerald surrounded by diamonds. "Will you marry me, Bella? Will you be my wife, my partner, my everything?" The tears came freely now, but they were happy tears, joyful tears. "Yes." Her voice broke, but the word was clear. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." His smile was dazzling. He took the ring and slid it onto her finger, a perfect fit, as though it had been made for her alone. Then he rose and kissed her deeply and long, pouring all his love and all his promise into it. When they finally separated, his forehead rested against hers, both of them laughing through tears. "When?" she asked. "Tomorrow, if you want. Or in a year. I don't care, as long as it happens." "Soon," she decided. "I want to be your wife soon. Then it will be soon." He kissed her again, shorter this time. "And I have something else for you. More than the ring." He took her hand and led her back inside to his office. On the desk was a folder. Sofia opened it, her eyes widening as she read. Property documents. A small restaurant in the center of Warsaw. A cozy space with old-world charm and enormous potential. This is for you. For us. I thought we could run it together. His voice was soft. You always used to mention how much you loved cooking with your nana in Italy, before everything fell apart. This can be yours. Ours. Something built from nothing. Together. Sofia couldn't speak. The dreams she had buried deep during the years with Marcus, the years of running, were suddenly real. Tangible. Here in her hands. She turned to him, her whole body trembling with something that had no name. How can I ever repay you for all of this? Love me. His answer was simple. Just love me, Bella. That's all I will ever need. Forever, she whispered. I will love you forever. Their wedding was 2 months later, at a small church on the outskirts of Warsaw. An intimate ceremony, only their closest people. Luca as Dante's best man. Han from the Sapphire Lounge as Sofia's maid of honor. Sofia wore a simple white gown, her hair loosely pinned, her mother-in-law's pendant glowing at her throat beside her new ring. Dante wore a dark suit, his eyes never once leaving her face as she walked the aisle toward him. When the priest asked if Dante took Sofia as his wife, his response was firm and absolute. I do. When it was Sofia's turn, her own answer was equally strong, equally certain. They kissed as husband and wife, and the small crowd cheered. But for Sofia and Dante in that moment, only the two of them existed, two wounded souls who had found each other, who had built something beautiful from the ruins of their separate pasts. The reception was at Velvet, of course. They danced all night, drank, laughed, celebrated. Luca gave a speech that made the entire room cry and laugh simultaneously. The cake was tall and perfect. But the best moment came late, after most of the guests had gone, when Sofia and Dante were alone on the empty dance floor. The music was soft, a slow, winding melody, and Dante held her close, swaying gently. Any regrets? He murmured. About what? Marrying me. Tying yourself to someone like me. Sofia pulled back just enough to look into his eyes. Never. Not for a single second. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me, Dante Russo. His smile was gentle, almost shy. Dante Moretti, remember. I took your name. It was true. Another way Dante had separated himself from his past, adopting Sofia's name, truly beginning again. Dante Moretti, she repeated, savoring it. I like how that sounds. So do I. He kissed her forehead. Sofia Moretti Russo. My wife. It sounds like a dream. It sounds like home. And it was. After years of running, hiding, and living in fear, Sofia had finally found a place where she belonged. Not a place on any map, but a person. This complicated, dangerous, beautiful man who had seen all of her past and loved her in spite of it. Because of it. They danced until the music stopped. Until the lights began to dim. Until they were alone in their small, perfect world. And then Dante took her hand and guided her out into the night, where a car waited to carry them into a new life, a new future. As they moved through the streets of Warsaw, Sofia looked at the man beside her, her husband, her love, her shelter from every storm. Where are we going now? She asked. Dante smiled. His hand tightened around hers. Wherever you want, Bella. The world is ours. Then let's go home. Our home. Our home, he agreed. And as the car moved through the glittering city, Sofia Moretti Russo knew one thing with absolute certainty. No matter what the future held, no matter what challenges still lay ahead, she and Dante would face them together. Always together. 2 years later, Sofia stood in the kitchen of their restaurant, Bella Note, as they had named it, stirring a tomato sauce that had been simmering since dawn. The scent of basil and oregano filled the air, carrying her back to her grandmother's kitchen in Italy. Back to happier times, before everything went dark. But now she had new happiness. Better happiness. The kitchen door swung open and Dante walked in. Casual today, jeans and an open collar shirt. A rare sight for a man who once wore nothing but tailored suits. How are the preparations going? He asked, stealing a cherry tomato from the prep table. Sofia tapped his hand lightly. Fine. We'll be ready for the opening tonight. Excellent. He came up behind her, his arms wrapping around her, his hands resting gently on the soft, rounded curve of her belly. And how is our little one? Sofia placed her hands over his. The baby kicked, strong and certain. She's been kicking like mad. I think she inherited your temperament. Let's hope she inherits your strength. He kissed the curve of her neck. And your beauty. And your heart. They stood like that for a long moment in the warm kitchen, surrounded by the scent of home, their future growing quietly between them. Life was not perfect. There were still hard days, moments when the shadows of Dante's past reached back toward them. There were still nights when Sofia woke from dreams about Marcus, heart pounding in the dark. But they had each other. And that was more than enough. I love you, Sofia whispered. I love you too, Bella. For always. And in that warm kitchen, wrapped in the smell of something good and the promise of everything still to come, Sofia and Dante Moretti held each other close, knowing that whatever life brought next, they would face it together. Always together. The end.